Here at Gundam Planet, we're all about giving the people exactly what they want, and that's why we're going to bring you a review faster than ever for the item that more people cared about more than basically anything else on the planet. This is the Gundam Marker Airbrush, and I think that GSI Krios was about 20 years too late making this thing because it is pretty genius. There's a lot of stuff going on with it, crammed into this little small box, so I'm just going to get right down to it. We're going to unpack it for you, show you exactly how it works. My favorite thing about it, right off the bat, is that they just covered the window box completely with this US distribution sticker warning about the flammability of Mr. Air Super. So I hope you didn't want to see what it looks like before you open it, because all you get is this little guy right here, and the back is covered in all this very Japanese text. So I don't know why they didn't put the English warning text over that. But you know, here we are. So I'm just gonna open it right away. There are a couple big questions that everyone has, and I would like to address them. But first, we're just gonna do the basic things with what you get out of the box. You get Mr. Air Super. I'm actually just gonna dump this because it's way easier. Okay, that is everything, and then the instructions. So you get the Mr. Air Super, which is the source of the air. This is basically air in a can, except for it has a little valve at the top that allows you to use it for this airbrush. You get the tube to run between the air and the little airbrush thing. Then you get the airbrush itself, which this is a pretty basic piece of plastic. You can hold it like a pencil and has a little button. If you used an airbrush before, you might be used to one that has a forward and back motion to control the flow. All this is a button for an actuator, because it's much simpler than most of them. This is just solid plastic, so be careful not to drop it. It seems like it could break, but if you break it, super glue would probably fix it fine. So there's that. This little dude you put on top of this can to control the airflow between the tube, or between the pipe and the airbrush. And then these nibs, you're supposed to replace the ones that come in the marker with these, because they're supposed to control the flow of the paint better. What I've read is that the ones that come in the marker, you know, might get there might be too much paint, it might come out in droplets, and this prevents that. However, I did see a couple videos from people in Japan doing this, and it seemed like the basic nibs were fine, so that's one of the things I want to address is, are these necessary, and if so, to what extent? So I'm just going to go ahead, get this open, show you how to hook it all up. And then one other thing, we have a compressor here in the shop to, you know, for our own airbrushing purposes. I really want to see if you can use, you know, a standard Mr. Hobby compressor and hook it up to this and avoid the need for the canned air, because I'm honestly not sure how long this thing is going to last. And I don't really want to just sit here on camera and hold it down with a stopwatch, but you know, maybe I'll do that sometime later. So see how it has this little guy? All you do, pop this right on top. I'm sorry, I was screwing that completely the wrong way. Take that off, screw this down, it locks on there, then you put this down, just like that. You see how the air is coming out? Okay, now once you push it down far enough, the air will start coming out consistently. You don't want that yet. Unscrew it so it stops. Perfect. Now is when you take the tube, you do some of this, screw one end on here. Perfect. Screw the other end on here. Perfect. Now, if you push this down the way it was before, so that the air is coming out. If you want more air coming out, push it down farther, less air, lift it up a little bit more, and now, when you push down, got some air. Get out of here, get out of here. Okay, there we go. You hear that? Perfect. Then, if you want a little bit less air, control the flow a little bit, loosen this up, got less air coming out. So, that was really insanely easy as far as setup goes. I am going to show you some of the results. I have a couple action bases here that I'm going to move the camera forward and paint. But before then, I do want to do the ultimate test and see, whoops, didn't shut this off. I'm gonna do the ultimate test, try and connect this to a compressor, see what we got. So I have my Mr. Linear compressor, my Mr. Hobby right here. The hoses should be uniform. I didn't even check this before. Look at that, it goes right on there. And then we have the on button. And now you are cooking with gas. It does work with a compressor, so I'm guessing if you have, you know, an air pressure regulator, that would also work. So to answer the one question I saw on Twitter, you do not need the compressed air if you have a compressor with the correct hose fitting, which even if it doesn't have the correct hose fitting, because this is, you know, this is Mr. Hobby, so they're compatible right out of the box, you could probably find an adapter to make it work. There you go. Just saved you a bunch of money on replacement air cans right there. It might be worth it for all of you to invest in this, you know, because the big cans that we sell separately are 11 bucks. And depending on how much you want to get out of it, and how many models you want to do, who knows how long that's going to last. And this, unlimited air, has that good stuff. All right, so now that we know that, I'm going to move everything around, move the camera up a little bit, and we're actually going to see this in action with the, you know, the special nibs and the normal ones, different colors, different coatings, and we're going to find everything out that you need to know. All right, so to start, I'm gonna keep using the air can because this is exactly what comes out of the box, so this will give you a good idea of exactly the kind of results that you can expect if you just get the airbrush and nothing else. So the first thing, pick your marker. I know it's going to be the metallic marker because I know how you guys are and you really like metallic colors. So that's what I'm gonna do as the example. We're gonna use this very nice blue. Now you'll notice the tip is white. I haven't used this yet. So the first thing you need to do is push down, usually in a paint tray. You just wanna push down, and then once the paint starts coming out, see, once this focuses, the tip is blue now. Now this is the standard tip that comes in the marker. I'm just doing this for comparison because they do say you should use the special nib. So then you take the marker, just put it in here, just like this. This is too deep. This is not deep enough. You need to line it up right at the tip, just like that, so that the air will blow by the paint and it will knock the paint straight onto whatever it is you're painting. So you can see that the tip is a little bit saturated with the paint. I'm just going to turn on my little compressor over here. So now we have, okay, it's a decent amount of pressure. Okay, then you're gonna do this. Get this tube out of here. All right, my finger is gonna be very blue after this. Take a look at that. No extra work whatsoever. You just get this really nice shiny blue display stand. And so you can just do a little bit more. Just get that nice and even. You don't need surfacer. You use these just like a Gundam marker. I will say, since it is a Gundam marker, do not use this on joint parts because it has a tendency to eat away at that a little bit. Just shake this down. And then see, now that I'm doing this more, there's less paint in the tip of the marker to actually go onto the thing I'm painting. If that happens, just like a Gundam marker, just like usually would, just push down, saturate the tip a little bit more. Don't use your finger. Now you got paint all over my finger. Use something other than that, but I'm just doing it for illustrative purposes. And there we go. Now we got more paint coming out. Beautiful. That is really nice. And that was so simple. And if you want another color, you just take the marker out and put in another color. Then let's see what happens if you turn the flow all the way up. See if that changes anything. Get that right in there. A little bit farther down. That is nice. I like that a lot. I'm guessing a lot of you people are going to be changing the Psycho Frame colors in the unicorn, and you know, I can't really blame you because that would probably look sick. So I'm going to take this out. I'm going to see what's going on with those other nibs. So if you just take the marker, come on, focus. Okay, take the marker. You just, we've never done this before. Okay, so you can just pull that straight out of there. Now there's a big hole in the marker. Then you grab the special nib, which feels kind of like wood. It's like corkboard. So just throw that in there. Push it down. Push it down. This is harder to get going than the other one. There we go. Okay, so maybe since this is a harder material, it takes longer to saturate, but there we go. And then Just throw that in there, line it up right at the top. And now I'm gonna do a different stand, same color, see if you can tell the difference. There is less marker coming out at each time. You can see how there's way less there. This is taking me considerably longer to do. Sorry about the shadows from the light. But yes, as you see, as you get closer, there's a darker line that you can see there. Just like that. If you stay farther away, get that nice, even finish. So you can really do what you want. You could probably even use this to spray paint letters on things if you want. Honestly, the nib, it probably, all it does is preserve paint. I would imagine that you're just using less of the Gundam marker with each spray. So that would be, you know, a good way to make each marker go longer. Like, I really like the way this looks. So, this is with the special nib, this is without. There's very little noticeable difference. Almost at all. But, like I said, just use the nib, preserve the marker longer. So there's that. And now that you can see how easy that is, I'm gonna hook this thing up to a compressor, use a different color marker, and just kind of round out the whole experience here. So this one we have already used before, so there might even be more Gundam marker in the tip. So we'll see how that affects this whole situation. Boom. We're in here. Now before you unhook this hose, lift this all the way up so that it doesn't just spray air out when you undo this, because otherwise it's kind of like if you push down a pin in a tire, it's just going to spew air out and then you're wasting money. So don't do that. Now we're hooked into the compressor. We are live now. Oh, the marker is, okay. Marker's a little dry. This is red. I know the light is making it seem like it's reflecting a little bit yellow. But with the darker colors that aren't metallic, you can see you're going to need to go over this more. I am seeing what they mean about the nib though. Let's see if I can show you in the light. Do you see how when I hold it like this, you can see the darker spots and you can actually see like the wet texture of the paint? That's probably because I'm using the standard nib. You can see the imperfections there, there, there. So I'm going to turn this over and put in the other Gundam marker nib so that you can see better how that affects it. So each one of these sets comes with 3, but they are sold separately. They come with 6 for like $3. Just rip that out of there, put in the new one. We're gonna do the same thing, boom, boom, boom. Saturate this, there we go. Put this in here. Get off of my art. Oh, I've ruined it, now it's on my art. What I just did, don't do it. Don't wipe off Gundam marker that hasn't dried yet. So let's see how this goes. Ooh, that is much better. All right, so there's your answer, folks. You do want the nib to create this very nice, even coat in exactly the color you want. So, I take back what I said. You probably do want the nib no matter what you're doing, because look at how much more vibrant that is than what I did before. I hope you guys don't mind the unscripted nature of this. I had no idea what I was going to say going into it, so I've just proven myself wrong. But that is the nature of the beast. So, look how nice this looks. So just from messing around with this, what you can tell is that if you want brighter spots for shorter bursts, you hold it down way shorter. You do these little quick fires like this, and it will come out a more vibrant color in a smaller area. If you want to cover more, you do these sweeping motions just like with a regular airbrush, and then you get a nice even coat. The only problem that I'm seeing with this, as I'm using it more, is that once you're out of paint, you need to actually take the marker out, push it down, re-soak the nib, and then go again. So you will have to do that throughout the course of the process, and then your hand will be this very nice shade of whatever color you're using. But that is essentially all you need to know in order to use this. So basically you want to think of this much in the way that you think of an airbrush, where a lot of people don't want to get the airbrush because it's a big investment right out of the gate. You need to spend, you know, $200, get an airbrush compressor, and you know, a lot of people are afraid of that, so they go towards spray cans. But when you consider the cost of each individual spray can, it will be much more expensive over time if you continue to use the spray cans rather than making the big investment up front. I would think of this the same way, because yes, you can just buy just the airbrush, and then you have these cans that just spit air out whenever you push down on that, and they'll run out, you know, just like a can of compressed air does, and then you got to buy another. Or you could go get a Mr. Hobby compressor, or any airbrush compressor probably. They start at like, you know, $70, and then you could just save the money on the compressed air, plug this thing in there, and then you're good to go. If you get, you know, $50 to $70 one, you could even probably get a cheap one for like $30 because you don't need the pressure regulator or anything like that. That knocks out a huge portion of the continuing investment of getting this airbrush. So you would just need to replace the nibs, you know, just get a nib for every color, because I don't think these would wash out well. But those are $350 for 6. You could just stock up right out of the gate. We have people ordering, you know, 15, 20, just so that they're good forever with whatever color they want. And then you can just throw them into the markers and you're good to go. You have as many colors as you want. The only downside of this is you can't mix colors. You're limited to the Gundam markers that are manufactured. So if that's a problem for you, you probably want to look elsewhere. In short, I would recommend this as a great, like basically a shortcut. If there are any colors that you don't like, for example, I hate yellow, you could just take any of the pieces in the kit that you want a different color and just do like those 2 or 3 and then move on. I wouldn't use these for entire kits. You probably could, but at that point you would definitely want to get a compressor, because otherwise you're just gonna be blasting through this Mr. Air Super. So small details, probably perfect. Probably actually exactly what you use Gundam markers for, except for now this will give you a much more even look. One other thing, don't use these on joint parts. You shouldn't use Gundam marker on joint parts either, because sometimes the marker goes on pretty thick. If there's too much of it, it affects the plastic badly, and sometimes they can actually disintegrate. The extra coat of paint also makes it like rub against each other badly, and it can wear down the joints. So I would not recommend this for joint parts. If you're gonna do joint parts, you should really prime it, paint it with standard lacquer. So do that. I think that this is a really solid investment for $45. $45 gets you everything that I showed you at the beginning, and then you can just use it for small touch-ups. Another thing I didn't really cover, because I don't have any like specific models to work with, is that on the side here, you know, of course, Unicorn Psycho Frame, that's the obvious use, but also they weathered this Zaku. So when I was showing those short bursts to get up close, you could use it for weathering or camouflage pattern pretty easily. This is probably the easiest way to do camo if you get the Xeon marker set, and you get some grays, because that has like the green, the dark green, the Zaku colors. That would look really cool if you're doing like a forest camo, or you could use the grays, the white, and the black if you're doing, you know, a winter camo. There's actually a lot of possibilities that at first glance this is very simple. You design this just like you just want to paint a couple pieces. You want to paint your model, but you don't want to, you know, mix paint. You don't want to use thinner. But you actually could do whatever that you want with this, as long as it doesn't involve mixing colors, because once you do that, there's really nothing you can do. But you could definitely use your imagination and find creative ways to apply this. It's up to you what you want to get out of this, and that is really cool. If I missed anything, please feel free in the comments. I'll be happy to talk to you about any questions that you have as far as specifics go. I'll be familiarizing myself with this more in the next couple days, that I can answer questions for the weekend. This is a really ingenious product. I really think they like pretty much knocked it out of the park here. I really like what they did. So I guess if I'm going on a traditional 10-point numbering, I give this a solid 8, because I think that the only things they could improve are the construction of this plastic. It just feels cheap, and maybe give it, you know, the flow adjustment here. Although I don't really know how the science of it would work with something that doesn't, you know, it's just a basic wire through here. But other than that, this is really good.